So I thought maybe for something a little different today, you might prefer a view of what and where I can see from where I'm stitching today. It is 8:30 in the morning. Actually, I think it's a little later. I think it might be almost 9 o'clock in the morning on Friday. The weather is spectacular. It is always about 5 degrees, 3 to 5 degrees cooler out on the bay than it is in town. And we've got a lovely breeze today. Not too much. So there aren't any whitecaps today. Georgian Bay is very temperamental with the weather, and you really have to know what you're doing. If you're going to be out on a boat in it, you need to, be aware of what's happening with the weather. Oh, here comes a boat now. You see him zipping through there? We're sort of on a main passageway here, so being that it's Friday, a lot of other cottagers are going to be coming up for the weekend, so we'll start to see an influx of more boat traffic today. And only just now the sound is coming to me. They're really not that close, but close enough that you can watch them. Sometimes we have some spectacularly big boats come through, and that's always fun to watch. I'm stitching a Christmas design today. This was my high tea start a couple of months ago. This is the ScissorTail design piece. Have a Merry, Merry White Christmas. Excuse me. And I'm going to stick this up in front here. Can you see it? Is it too bright? Let me put the pattern behind there. So that's where I am. So I've done a fair bit since the last time I shared this with you. And I did my planned red Mary there. So the dog is off to investigate the honking of the Canadian geese. So I'm going to carry on with the lettering of White Christmas while I sit here and chat with you. Can't believe we're closing in on the end of June already. Before we know it, it'll be time in just a few days for another high tea. Just trying to get situated here so that it's a gentle breeze, but it's just enough that it's going to take all of my thread for a ride if I don't weight it down with my scissors there. You can hear maybe the dog is wandering around behind me. She's quite a senior dog now. I had some trouble with her when we first arrived. My father-in-law came and picked the dog and I up from the rock, the mainland, where we park the cars, and she doesn't have a lot of strength left in her back end. And when we arrived at his dock, some of the boards on his walkway that are surrounding the boathouse are a little bit far apart. And unfortunately, she was sort of dragging her back feet behind her as she carefully navigated the walkway, and unfortunately, and I was right there with her. I keep her on the lead until she's calmed down, because she's always quite excited when we first arrive here. And unfortunately, 3 of her legs sort of collapsed and fell through the slats in the walkway. It could have been incredibly disastrous. I didn't realize that her back legs were quite as unable to, not have to sort of slide when her, she doesn't really tend to pick up her feet very well at the back. So, she was so good, she didn't move a muscle. She sort of went through and she just stayed absolutely still. Fortunately, hadn't broken anything. And I, with the help of my father-in-law, was able to gently extricate her, and then she did not want to continue. She did not want to move. She had completely lost all confidence, understandably so, lost all confidence with the walkway. And so I gave him the lead and the front end, and I sort of took the back end and walked her back feet one at a time for her, and then got her off there. And then, once she was on the rock, she was totally fine and clambering around. And she's a little slower this summer than last summer, but is having a good sniff. She's been sticking quite close to me since we arrived. There, I finished the eye. Huh? Can you see it? There. Such a sweet design, this. John and the kids are well. Sarah has her last exam today. I think she's quite excited about that. Last day of grade 11. In Ontario, we go to grade 12. So she only has 1 more year of high school. And then a year from now, we will be preparing her for her last summer before university, which is frankly shocking, because in my mind she's still 2 years old. So I had a bit of a problem, a little bit of a mistake with this design, and I ripped it out and fixed it yesterday. And in fact, I had someone comment on it, so I had read the comment, and it was one of those times where you're sort of in the middle of doing 10 other things, and I read it but didn't. Frankly, I thought it was referring to my stitch that I was missing on the motif in my modern folk embroidery sampler, and I thought to myself, oh, I did catch that when I fixed it, so I left it at that and carried on about my day. But yesterday I realized that it was this piece that kind soul was talking about. And I'm sorry I don't remember who it was, but you were absolutely right that the border that I had stitched on this piece, and I'm going to see if I can show it to you here. So the border here on the left-hand side, I was 1 thread from about the 4th or 5th stitch down here in the border. I had moved it over by 1 thread. So I was half a square over to the right, and then I carried on down. I carried on down and across, and of course did my snowflake there, which is also 1 square over to the right. So I ripped out the border last night up to where it was wrong, and I corrected that. And then I thought, you know what? We're just going to call it good with that snowflake. I'm going to leave it one thread too far to the right. I self-corrected the lettering here, there. I corrected that lettering. And then what I'm going to do on the right-hand side, I'm going to do the exact same thing. So I'm going to bring it in one thread to the left so that they match. My mistakes will match. And I'm perfectly okay with that. I corrected the border, and that really didn't take me very long at all. So it's all good. All good. 2, 3, 4. I think I'm actually going to run out of floss before I finish the last 4 stitches on this tee. Isn't that aggravating? I find that it's so nice when it works out perfectly. But there are those other times where you think, oh, I've just got 2 more stitches to do. Last night I discovered I'd had a missing stitch on my H. Right. I hope this is focused because it's hard for me to see it. I'd missed a white square just up there on the edge of the H, so I added that back in. Added it in, not back in. It was missing. Yesterday. Daria has finally laid down right at my feet. She's such a good dog. It's really so hard to watch them. Oh, there she goes again. She's off. She smells something. It's so hard to watch them get older. And think that perhaps this might be her last summer here. I mean, a year ago, we had 3 animals. We had Eddie, the beagle. We had Oscar, our enormous, lovely ginger tomcat. Of course, he wasn't a tomcat. He was fixed. So, my big ginger cat. Isn't that? You don't call them toms if they're fixed. It's just a cat, right? Anyway. There was no tom catting around for poor Oscar. And now we just have Daria. We lost Oscar last summer here at the cottage. I mean, we didn't lose him. But you all know what I mean. And then 4 or 5 months ago, Eddie decided his time was nigh as well. I miss him in the funniest ways. He was so well behaved as long as you were in the room. But he had a bit of a naughty streak. And if there was anything left out, like, you know, a garbage bag that hadn't made its way yet into the trash can, or any sort of food, especially dog food. Oh my goodness. Twice he was left to his own devices in the cottage. And one time was me, and the other time was John. Left him in the cottage and did not put him in his crate before leaving the cottage. And he got into the dog food bag even though it was weighted down with rocks. We have a lot of rocks around here. We tend to use them as large paperweights. So the rock was on the top of the dog food bag, and it was sort of, you know, hidden behind a lot of stuff. He really had to be a bit of a Houdini to get at this bag of dog food. And oh, he got into it. He tore it open with his teeth and he ate. This was a 20-pound bag of dog food. No, not 20 pounds. Was it 20 pounds? Or 10 pounds? I can't remember. And he ate and ate and ate. And by the time John got back to the cottage, Eddie was fast asleep on the couch with this enormous belly full of food. Oh, that was a bit unnerving because we didn't know how he was going to fare after that. A bit of a tuck in, but anyway. He did have a naughty streak. So when I look around and I remember the things that he did at the cottage, his crate isn't there anymore. That was the only time he barked or howled, was when he was in the crate and he was ready to come out. It was breakfast time in the morning and he knew it was breakfast time, and that's when he would howl. So for a beagle, he was actually quite quiet. And he just had these funny little routines. Dogs are like that though, aren't they? Creatures of habit. Oh, I shouldn't have snipped that off. I could have carried it over. I didn't carry any of my red threads. I did a pin stitch for each individual letter. But the white, I'm not worried about carrying across the back. You might be able to see a little bit of it through the fabric at the moment, only because, well, it's a bright sunshiny day. But when there is when it's going to have something behind it, you won't be able to see the white. And I'm not carrying it very far, only 1 or 2 stitches. But I have carried it for the border because there's no way I'm doing a pin stitch for every individual X on that border. You can forget it. Yes, I can see you, Daria. I can hear you too. Everybody can probably hear you panting like crazy. Can you go lie down? No, huh? She has selective hearing. Though she seems to always hear the cookie bag opening. Any day now, the dragonflies will start to emerge. That's always fun. They love the rocks around here, and a few times early in the summer we'll have a couple of days, not in a row, but we'll have a day where you'll look outside and there will be 50 to 75 to 100 dragonflies, big ones, just, you know, zooming around the greenery here. You can see at the bottom of the screen, we have a lot of low-lying shrubs. We call them spreaders. I think they are juniper bushes. They're prickly, and that's where all of the best blueberries grow. We have some of the greatest wild blueberry patches around these here parts on this island. They're all over the place up here on these islands, and we have a particularly good bit of growth on this island. they love the juniper bushes. And so when you go berry picking, you have to wear, well, we also have rattlesnakes here, so boots are a given. You wear boots, you bring a stick, and before you step anywhere, you poke with your stick, you listen. Because rattlesnakes are, they're called, the breed that live here are called the Massasauga rattler. And if I ever come across one, oh, I can see some dragonflies. I can see 4 of them. I'm not sure you can actually see them. 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can you see them? Huh? They're incredible. I love them. Oh, that was fun. What was I saying? Oh, the rattlers. Yeah, Massasauga rattlers. Massasauga rattlesnake. That's what we have here. If I do come across one and take some video of it, I will always put up a little warning before I show video or pictures of them. I know not everybody likes to see snakes. You know, I've pretty much grown up here. I've known John since I was 15. I've been coming here since I was 17. And I'm now, well, I'm turning 44 this summer. So I'm used to the rattlesnakes. I'm used to them, you know, sharing our space. We don't like to have them, especially if they're close to the cottage. That's a problem when you have small children. But the kids grow up knowing that they have to wear boots when they go outside. When you go through the spreaders, you take a stick and boots. And, you know, you're just always aware of your surroundings. We also have bears out here. Bears are quite territorial, so usually we only have one. I guess one is enough, isn't it? This island is about 75 acres. The majority of it is crown land, which means that it's owned by the government and will most likely remain that way. I'm not sure if you can see what I'm going to explain here, but looking across, you can see that there's a small island right there. That island is crown land, so that's owned by the government. Over there, I mean, it's tiny. It's a little teeny tiny island. There's thousands of them up here. Just little rocks, basically. Some of them are crown land and some of them are privately owned. The privately owned ones that have cottages on them are really quite fun. You know, this little rocky island and then a cottage on it. It's quite cute. And I don't think you can tell really at all, but across there, so directly across from there, now you can see my finger, directly across that island, just to the left, there's another little island there as well. And then if you keep going to the right, there's a third little island. Those are all crown land islands, tiny, teeny tiny. We call them the other island and the other island, which I know is terribly descriptive. And what's interesting is just to the right of that island there's another island, but that one's privately owned, and there's a lovely little cottage on it. But you know, I think in the 20 odd years that I've been coming up here, I think I've only seen someone there once. So I'm not quite sure what the story is. I have no idea who owns it. I have no idea why it is not used or loved, or it's a beautiful little place. So anyways, interesting. So yes, the rattlesnakes and the blueberries. The conditions have to be just right for the blueberries. So we can usually tell by, well, from now or a week from now, what the crop is going to be like. Dropped my thread. There we go. You have to have the right kind of conditions for it. Good sun and good rain. All right, I'm going to finish up this E, and then I think I'm going to have to have that be it for today. I'm going to have to keep an eye on my timing for data purposes. I'm thinking about half an hour is about what I should stick to for these Stitch With Me videos so that I can have a little visit with you, but not completely decimate my data usage. Oh well. It's fun having a bit of a visit, isn't it? I tell you, my blood pressure dropped a few points as soon as I got up here. I said to John, I said, I'm not sure I'm coming home. Not sure I'm going back to London. So they better come. They better come here. Oh, shoot. This linen is it's quite easy to see, but sometimes when you're trying to move too quickly, and I'm sure that's how that happened when I moved over that half thread to the right. There, fixed. Okay. Be great if I could finish this piece in the next couple of days before the next high tea new start, because then I would have a finish of one of my high teas. At least one. Too funny. It's all good. I'm good with it. Okay, two more. It's too bad the loons didn't start chatting, but I'm sure at some point this summer I will get them on tape so that you can hear them. There's a book that we have about them called Ghosts of the Bay, and if you'd heard them last night, you would completely understand what I'm talking about when I say that that title is extremely apt. It's haunting. It's completely dark, pitch dark, and quiet. And all you hear, because of course sound carries for miles up here when there's no wind and it's calm, and they start calling to each other. Or one will just start these calls in the middle of the night, and it is just the most incredible sound. So if you're interested, just do a quick Google search for, call of the loon. It's the common loon, Loon. We have a loon on our dollar coin. We call it the loonie for good reason. They're just such an integral part of life up here. The call of the loon is phenomenal. Oh, you know what? There's a sailboat slowly making its way. I'm not sure it's going to come into screen. What I'll do is I'll take the camera off the thing and I'll show you the sailboat in a minute. So where I showed you those two islands, where's my finger? There. That island there, the Crown Land, and the one to the right that's privately owned. That's the channel through which most of the boats pass, okay? So I'm going to take this off and I'll show you. There's the sailboat over there. Right there you can see. Most, not all, but many sailboats will turn their engines on. If they've been sailing, they will turn their engines on and they will motor through the channel there because it's a bit narrow. And we like to tease and we say they're cheating. But really, I don't know the first thing about sailing. I probably would have the motor on all the time. So, anyways, lovely sailboat. Oh, you know what? He is actually sailing. I take my words back. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, that's perfect. Beautiful. Let's see if I can bring you a little closer there. There you go. Lovely. All right. Well, we'll say goodbye to the sailboat. And look, I'll show you proof that I finished. Oop, oh, hang on. I'll have to zoom back out again there. Proof that I finished my E, and I finished the entire word white. Have a great day. Have a wonderful Friday. Happy weekend. Join us on the Facebook group, Friday Off the Grid. And I'll see you on Sunday for high tea. Happy stitching.